So Rico, are we ready to, oh, we're recording, okay. So hi everyone, welcome to this session with Holly Revell. I'm gonna hand straight over to her.
Okay, thanks Meg. Hi everyone. Hold on, let me just, right, you'll have to excuse my weirdness for the first few minutes. Zoom talk, public, first time. Anyway, yeah, thanks for being here. Thanks for making this a thing. I can see quite a few familiar names. I can see Felix, hello. I saw Jen, Amelia, people from the project. So that's really great. But yeah, hello everyone. Right, so yeah, and also thank you to anyone who's bought the zine, which is kind of my Shout commission. So, and a massive thank you to Shout for commissioning me to make this. That was a very welcome phone call this summer, as I'm sure you can imagine. So we're here to talk about this project, People Like Us, and we made a zine of some of the work in progress, which we'll be talking about as well in a moment. Okay, so before I start, I'd like to introduce Sabah Choudrey, who's in the project and will be chipping in with some stuff in a bit, and also to Tink, who's going to stand in for Lucy. So Lucy, they're a fellow non-binary parent and a good friend of Lucy's. So Lucy's not really feeling up to talking about this stuff tonight after all. They don't really feel confident talking about this publicly. They've like suddenly realised. I'm actually going to read their piece from the zine to start with, because this kind of explains where they are, and a lot of emotion and feels and so on has come out through sort of being pregnant as a non-binary person. Did I say, obviously Lucy's part of the project and has become pregnant during the project. Okay, so yeah, I'm just going to read this. I'm assuming that you can hear and see me, and this is okay so far, is it? Thank you, Sabah. Keep those thumbs going. Okay, it is funny speaking sort of to the point, but not right. Okay. So yeah, so with the zine, it's a series of 12 images of 12 different participants, and each of them has written something to go along with that. I need my glasses. Okay, and this is what Lucy wrote. And a lot of these went a lot deeper than I was initially expecting, and particularly this one actually. So I remember the first time I read about people defining themselves as non-binary. It was a relief, a feeling of understanding and belonging. I also realised I was a coward because I didn't want to take on the fight to declare those feelings. Between then and now, I've watched people rewriting the things I say and the way I am in their minds, so my existence doesn't contradict the ideologies they already have. I've struggled to merge my sense of self with those ideologies in attempts not to lose people, only to see my feeling of understanding and belonging being buried deep inside myself. I'm so bored of being scared of the fight and my declarations feeling like whispers. I'm tired and want to be seen. It feels good to be included in this project, to be placed next to people who understand and who I belong with. Okay, so slightly heavy start to it. I'm going to lighten things up in a moment, but you know, as is the project, it keeps sort of, you know, things are changing and coming out. Okay, so I'm gonna share my screen, and I'm just gonna do like a real quick sort of go over like the sort of a quick going over of some of my work to put things into context. Hold on, share screen. Just bear with me. Oh, all right. Right, hopefully. Right, hopefully you can see my website. Would that be true? I actually can't see any of you, so I don't. Sabah, can you see my website?
It's just a white screen for me.
Oh no. Hold on, I'll stop square and shops there. Because it did say something about a whiteboard. Hold on. Here we go. Right, let me try again.
Whiteboard.
Ah, here we go.
It's fun, but it's not your website.
No, I don't know what it was. It's nothing to do with me. All right, okay. So for those that don't know me, so I've been documenting, making sort of promotional pictures and so on, sort of queer performance in London for the last decade or so. And my work's archived at the Bishopsgate Institute as well. There's a few key players that kind of saw me, if you like, as an artist, as a photographer when I started kind of playing around with some stuff. One of those was David Hoyle, who you see there, and another one was Scotty, who really pushed me to sort of become more professional about myself. So you know, I never saw myself as documenting other artists' work. I thought that was the lowest form of art. There's Chio, who's in the project. So this is sort of the performance page on my website. Lucy's there. Myra, do a lot with her. Nando. So I just kind of want to show you sort of where I'm at. A lot of, you know, so through doing this kind of work, I've met a lot of interesting people, and it's kind of boosted my sort of more artistic practice and so on. There's Azara, who's in the project. I've worked with Zara for quite a while now. And on it goes. There's Scotty. So he needed someone to document his work, and he really sort of showed me the ropes and got me in sort of learning about how things work behind the scenes and that, which is great. Johnny Wood also been a great sort of support, and so on as well, who I'm sure lots of you have worked with. Ginger, a constant for better or worse. Ducky, yeah. Anyway, so that's kind of what I do sort of with my freelance and so on. I'm going to show you just a couple of key projects that sort of, you know, got me to where I am now. So Darkroom, this was, also something that I wanted to say as well is it's always been important to me that I'm sort of working from the inside. So before I took photos of any of those people that I've just shown you, I got to know them first. And like with David, I was backstage for years before I took photos of him intimately and so on, because it just didn't feel right. So being sort of, yeah, knowing people and being, you know, within that community is really important to me. So anyway, this is Darkroom, which was my first sort of serious artwork about a decade after I left art school. And yeah, it took me about a decade to find myself, find my people, meet people that would give me a platform. I did a degree in fine art and did not fit in to the fine art world at all. So Darkroom came about from my experiences as a fag hag, which was an identity that I really enjoyed, actually. That's another presentation. Anyway, so my life was sort of the gay male sort of scene, club scene, whatever, for a long time. And the Darkroom was where my nights would often come to an abrupt end, and theirs would carry on. So I decided to make my own space, didn't I? And it was also very much to do with sort of photography theory and that as well, slowing photography down, using photography to make happenings and so on. Okay, and then that brings me to transformations. I am just whizzing through this bit because I want to get to the project. So project made with people that I was working with, long exposures again. All I ever did was blurry pictures. I didn't know, I would never have called myself a photographer until I started sort of documenting, working professionally. And these were all made in camera, so the whole sort of from dragged back to themselves in one shot. Some of those are in circulation on beer mats from the Glory still too. Okay, one more thing. David Hoyle photo book. So we'd accumulated so many photos and, you know, sort of a lot of intimate stuff and that. So I figured a photo book might be the best place to put them. So the photo book was born, and this was very much, the project came after the photos, whereas now I guess I'm working the other way around. So when I took these photos, I never knew there'd be a book. I was just taking them. Love this quote: "Being photographed shows that someone gives a shit," from David. So yeah, so that was my first photo book, and that's 2017. And that brings me to the project we're here to talk about, People Like Us. Okay, so let me just see, is there anything in my notes that I've missed? Fine. All right, so People Like Us is an ongoing participatory photography project exploring AFAB, assigned female at birth, trans, non-binary and gender non-conforming identities and experience, queer masculinity, gender dysphoria, gender euphoria, the beauty and nuances of gender non-conforming bodies, visibility, rituals and individual complexities. Okay, so I'm just gonna go down to Leo. Hopefully things are going okay. I can't see anyone now. I can't even see myself.
You're doing great.
Thank you, Sam. Right, where am I? Right, I'm just going to go down to quite an old image of Leo. So Leo, I've been friends with Leo for quite a few years now. And it was conversations with Leo and working with Leo on their theatre show Bullish. So they brought me in to sort of work on some photography with them and sort of and help them out with that. And I started to learn some stuff that I realised I didn't know. Leo was playing with a new name at that point, starting their transition process. And so everything okay? Yeah, so we were talking about stuff that I'd not had these conversations with anyone before, and I guess working on Bullish, it sparked my interest in this subject. Bullish was about sort of trans mask joy and peace and much more. So I started to talk to some other people I knew and started sounding them out on doing a project. Also, so Krishna, who's been in the project from the start and I've known since about 2011 from the sort of the performance scene and that. So I spoke with them. Amelia, who I kind of got to know more through Bullish and have become really good friends with through doing this project. And I really started to see other people that I knew on the scene, but I hadn't really seen them before, I realised. And you know, more people were coming out as gender non-conforming or trans, and they were like literally bouncing about. So it became clear there was something that we could do. Oh, why won't you escape? Oh, here we go. Jen, another, well, obviously all these people in the project. So, but Jen, yeah, you know, Jen, I really started to see. Okay, so I was cautious at the beginning. I didn't want to be intrusive or sensational, but it did sort of become clear after lots of chats and green teas that my attention was appreciated, and most importantly, that I was trusted with the project. Okay, so let's go there. Yeah, and at the beginning, I knew more about what I didn't want the project to be, that more about that than what it would be. I didn't really know what it was going to be at that point. And the initial ideas really came from conversations with the participants, you know, who were collaborators from the start. And that's really important, I think, you know, with a project like this and so on, that has to be. so yeah, what I didn't want to do was make a kind of really somber kind of editorial portraits of people sitting on their beds and so on. You know, beautiful and valid as some of those pictures can be, I just don't feel they represent the people I know, who are really, you know, they're so vibrant. And also, for me, it's really important that the work feels queer, whatever that means. And I just find it really strange that a lot of representation of queer people looks quite straight in terms of photography. But yeah, anyway, that's me. So, however, this has become such a mixture of stuff. I'm just going up to Chio here for a moment. I'm guessing that you're not seeing the whole picture, so we'll just put it there for now. Doesn't fit the screen for some reason. But what I knew that I wanted the work to be positive. You know, I knew that it would be portraits, and that I wanted them to be really raw and honest, unapologetic, intense in some way, and giving, you know, the participants having presence, just being themselves. And in a way, there was little direction from me, as you know, I was just kind of searching for them. You know, I kind of asked them to be open in terms of how they looked at me at the camera, with a really direct gaze. So, you know, sort of, so that gaze is really, you know, going to the viewer, and the participant holding that and the power. You know, it's important that the portraits are not voyeuristic and that the participants are in control. So, which is quite a hard, I don't know, it's like, yeah, it's not the easiest thing to do. We talked quite a lot about the public gaze at the start, those sort of constant looks of confusion, questioning, and all that horrible stuff, and we kind of wanted to confront that somehow, maybe by being, you know, sort of direct and confident with the images. We had some other conceptual ideas that we didn't really know how to do, so yeah, anyway, moving on. So we've made lots of portraits, and we've also done lots of body stuff, which I didn't really expect to do at the beginning. You know, cis people can be obsessed with, you know, the sort of transgender non-conforming bodies and so on. And I certainly didn't want to do anything that felt biological or medical or anything like that. I wanted some sort of images that could become backgrounds and sort of big abstracts for an exhibition idea and that. So we were sort of doing that. But it was, the participants were really open to making these kind of images, and they've become, you know, really, really good images in their own right. And, you know, I've kind of realized that actually, no, you know, it's important to make bodies, you know, bodies that transcend binaries and cis-expect. I can tell I'm reading this bit. It's important to make bodies that transcend binaries and cis expectations visible, so long as it's on the participants' terms. Okay, so I'll go for a few of these. So Kay loves the hair on the back of her neck. Felix, who's here, Felix is very proud of his Adam's apple, and who wouldn't be? Love this image. Mapplethorpe is a bit of an inspiration when it comes to the body. Azara, love this picture. This was this. Hi Laura. So this one came about through, yes, I was setting up the lights for a different shot, and Azara just put hands in her pants, and I thought, I never do that, and it turns out she does that all the time, and I think that's quite a masculine gesture, and it was just so natural, and I just think it's a really cool image, and it obviously is suggestive of other things or not. I don't know, I think it works. Okay, and here, so this is Lucy, And sort of Lucy talks about how they've always insisted on keeping their wispy chin hairs, which adds to the gender ambiguity. And at this point, I'm going to invite Tink just to say or read a little something from something that Lucy wrote.
Hi, Holly.
Hello.
Okay, so I've just stepped in for Lucy this evening, and I'm just going to read like a section of Lucy's text from what's it called, Holly?
Oh, non-binary and pregnant.
Brilliant. It hadn't occurred to me whilst I was trying to get pregnant how much I would miss passing. I'm so lucky to have a friend that can cut my hair, because I don't want to go to the barbers now that I'm showing. I'm pretty sure my barbers aren't that bothered about my gender, about the gender of a person who wants a standard clipper cut. That's not my worry exactly. What the barbers is to me is a place where I'm accepted as male. I don't talk much there, and I don't tell anyone that my name is Lucy. I don't say anything that alludes me to being a man, and I wear a binder. I watch the men get wet shaves, and I revel at being accepted into that masculine environment. Of course, trans men can get pregnant, and that's not a conversation I want to have in a barbershop. I just want a place where I can go and indulge my masculinity, fit in, and not rock the boat for a short while every few weeks. I don't know exactly what the men in the barbers think of me, and I don't know if they assume I was assigned male at birth, but I know that I get treated like a man when I'm in there. I sometimes wonder if my insistence to keep my wispy chin hairs makes people think that I've just started taking testosterone, but then I don't know how much the bloke cutting my hair knows about hormone replacement therapy anyway. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tink. Well, that worked out nicely, didn't it? Okay. So yeah, that piece Lucy wrote for Freedom Press. The whole piece is online. Okay, so I'm now going to bring in Sabah, who's going to talk a little bit about these images. Which one shall I pause on, the big one or the little ones?
Oh, I don't know. You could just maybe move between the two. We don't have to pick one. I'm not a fan of binary, so let's just keep things moving.
I'll keep it moving.
No, I don't mind. So yeah, I'll just introduce myself. Hi everyone, my name is Sabah. My pronouns are they, them, and theirs. I am a proud trans youth worker, psychotherapist in training, public speaker, writer, cat person, plant dad, etc., etc. And I'll just describe myself a bit more as well, because it's quite relevant to this little this kind of trio of photos as well. So I'm South Asian, I'm trans-masculine, and I'm covered in hair. When I was younger, I grew up as a young girl, was socialized as a girl, and being a South Asian hairy brown girl was just not someone I wanted to be, and there's a lot of shame around my hair with that. So one of my huge hesitations about taking testosterone was becoming so hairy. I remember a friend at the time, when they heard about me starting to take testosterone, they were just like, he's going to be so hairy. And I was like, I know. And it's been a few years, but it's still a really big journey for me, because when you're socialized as a woman, as a girl, and you have all these expectations of being hairless and being light skinned and just being groomed constantly all the time. Those things are really hard to like unlearn. And I had a lot of experience with different hair removal methods and hair reduction methods, and it was suddenly really then awkward for me to then suddenly let the hair grow or just kind of embrace it. Because I mean, I don't know about you, but I thought hair removal for me before taking testosterone was long, but now it's just like there's no point. I have to cancel out like 3 days. I do like one leg at like one limb at a time. One limb a day is too much. So it's really a part of me. This is forming a part of my practice of what's that word I'm looking for? Embracing my body hair. Anyway, so fast forward to now, and Holly, we're talking about this project, and Holly's like, oh, how about we get some bubbles out and like start playing with your body hair and making it all a bit fun and stuff. And I was just like, oh my god, that sounds like the worst thing right now. That's actually there is probably an assumption. Well, there's a massive assumption, especially for me, and maybe some of you can relate to it as well, that part of your kind of journey, your narrative into trans masculinity and starting hormones is like getting a beard or getting a freaking chin strap or armpit hairs and all of that stuff. And actually that was just that's not part of that doesn't form a part of my identity. That's not affirming for me. So I actually had to say, like, this isn't that nice thing. But actually what can I say about my body hair, my relationship to it? So I kind of explained how I look after my body hair and what are the rituals that I use now where it feels okay. And what it is these really dainty faggy gold scissors. I don't even know where they're from. I think they're my mom's, but they're like this really ornate gold handle. You can see there, and I use that to trim my upper lip hair and my eyebrows, and just it just changes what this ritual is. And it just becomes less about gender and more about myself and grooming. And what that is not just kind of self-indulgence, which I think is fine and great for trans people, especially trans people of color, but it's I don't know what the word is, but it's something really really personal and unique. And I think it just made me feel like my body hair doesn't have to be gendered. It can just be this routine, this ritual, this process. And it's actually it's enjoyable. Whether or not how I feel about my body hair on my skin and how I feel like it looks is something else, but taking care of it is kind of okay. And I think being able to share this with Holly and also with others, but mostly like even just with myself, has actually been pretty awesome. I'm sure I'll talk about body hair a bit later as well, but yeah, it's been really cool. Thanks, Holly. Back to you in the studio.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I mean, that sort of showed my ignorance. I think I made an assumption. I like to think that I don't make too many assumptions, but I'm sure I do. But I certainly, yeah, I made an assumption that Sabah was very proud of their body hair and that. So forever learning, and that's what I love about doing a project like this, without wanting to sound like an idiot. But yeah, it's learning and growing and so on. And I just think, like what Sabah's talking about, yeah, lots of other people must relate to this and maybe not have seen the words or had the words and so on. So yeah, and having the participants write about the images in such a thoughtful way really sort of adds so much more to them, obviously. Okay. Oh, also, Sabah, did I introduce you at all at the beginning? Please say I did.
I'll say that you did, but
Oh,
it's okay. I've already introduced myself. Don't worry.
oh my god, I'm so sorry. How did I not do that?
It's okay. You've got a lot of people on your mind at the moment. It's all right. No worries.
Yeah. Oh, bad, Holly. Okay. So another theme in the project that I thought it'd be way too cliche, so I really wasn't planning on doing anything around binding. But hey, surprise, surprise, we've done loads on binding. When I spoke to participants, quite a few, it was one of the first things that many of them wanted to sort of explore in image making. I remember Jen talking about how much of their time they spend on dirty toilet floors, you know, sort of trying to sort of sort themselves out in various compromised positions, let's say. So they were really keen to make images about that sort of experience. Lots of different types of binding, you know, some very brutal, sort of, and so on. This is Kay, who is a similar age to me. I won't say any more than that, but has only actually recently started to look at binding and to try and find the kind of the right binder for her and so on. So and because I was a bit, you know, I was sort of, yeah, we had some fun with it as well as sort of looking at some of the harder stuff. We also looked at some of the silly stuff as well, and the awkwardness. Also looked at clothing, and you know how even a simple t-shirt can be a bit of a nightmare too. Yeah, so where are we? So that's, you know, it's obviously a significant thing. And then at some point, after doing lots of this kind of quite simple studio work, I kind of I was worried that the work didn't feel queer enough. I mean, looking at it now, I'm like, of course it does, but I don't know. So I thought, hey, let's get out some glitter and coloured light and do something really camp. So we did. And the initial ideas around this were sort of around kind of this idea of limitlessness, gender euphoria, kind of, you know, celebration of non-conforming bodies, trying to create this sort of magical place, a magical feeling, a place of pure euphoric energy. So we had fun. There's channeling Peter Pan, who was one of the first people that we spoke about a couple of years ago now. And there's our Sabah. So this is the series that has become the zine. I was also a bit concerned about having so many different styles of photography, but actually I think that's really cool now, and it keeps changing, and I think actually the more fluid and mixed up and so on it is, the better. However, we have pulled this series out to make a zine, but some of it will go into the book as well. Oh, right. Yeah, so okay, I'm coming towards the end of my bit. I'm just going to show a few recent portraits. View full screen. There we go. So yeah, it's been really nice post lockdown 1. So in the summer, we had obviously everything got paused a bit, and then so I started shooting with some of my old faithfuls. So here's again. And it was really nice, obviously, to do some new pictures and catch up and all that. And also welcoming new people to the project. So this is Lincoln, who I met fairly recently through a friend.
Just want to stop you there. It's a blank page. All I can see is white.
Oh, right. Let me. I'll stop and start again. Maybe share screen. Okay. Thanks, Sabah. I could have just got. Can you see now?
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so, and can you still see it now?
Yes.
Yes, right, okay. So that's what I was, so they're the ones of that I was talking about. And so here's Lincoln, who's new to the project, who I met recently. We both decided we liked this picture best from the shoot. However, they also brought along their motorbike and told me about this nice little rainbow wall. So we did some photos here too. And here's Sabah, some recent photographs in their garden. I think this was a mutual favourite.
Yeah.
Yeah, certainly one of mine anyway. Absolutely gorgeous. I didn't know about the boxing gloves until I arrived either, so that was a nice surprise. And we had lots of it was a beautiful hot day, and we had fun, and we got the bubbles out finally.
Yeah, we did.
I haven't got those ones here. There's something to look forward to. There's more bubbly pictures. And of course, you know, stories have changed. So Lucy became pregnant, which we've spoken about a little bit, and in a moment I'm going to invite Tink back to speak some more. So Lucy's actually 7.5 months pregnant now. And yeah, I think I touched on this already about this has really brought up their feelings around their gender identity. When I've known Lucy for years from the performance scene, but had only started talking about this stuff with them when we started the project, and they were very blasé about pronouns, this, that, and the other, and we're still using she, her. And it's since being pregnant that they've really, you know, started to sort of struggle with it all, and realize that they need to come out, and realize that they haven't come out, and so on. But I don't want to speak too much for them. Okay, so yeah, so just ending here, this is one we did. So Lucy always spoke of this really massive sort of desire to be pregnant. It was, you know, the thing that they wanted the most, I guess. So the glitter ball kind of represented that, as well as their sparkling cabaret career, of course. And now what a gift, they're pregnant. So yeah, so that's the story I certainly hadn't anticipated at the beginning. Oh, am I still here? Yes, I am still here, aren't I? Have I stopped sharing my screen by, I mean,
You're still here.
Okay, that's fine. Right, I think, yes, so that is where okay. I might just put gallery view on. Oh, I see, right. Oh, I hope that made sense.
Listen, folks, Zoom awkward moments are going to happen.
Yeah, it's more awkward than it was a lot less awkward when I did it to myself earlier. I couldn't interact with myself.
It definitely made sense to us.
Oh, thank you. That is very good to hear. So Lucy would have been coming in at this point to talk about being in the project. Sorry, my spaniel now wants to say hello as well, but he hates Zoom. So instead, Tink's going to come back in and read a little bit more of the piece that Lucy wrote for Freedom Press.
Okay, so I'm gonna turn off my camera because I'm not Lucy, and you can then just like tune into my Mancunian dulcet tones. When I finish, I'll just sort of mute myself again, Holly, and hand back. Is that all right?
Yeah, that's fine.
Sound all right? I'm going. You won't see my mug anymore. After a long process of trying to get pregnant, it had finally paid off. I had an overwhelming feeling of it all being very real. I started to worry about having to choose clothes for a little girl, and it crossed my mind that I would be able to watch Marvel films with them if they were a boy. This didn't reflect the way I think about gender generally. So at that point, I made a decision not to be told the sex of my baby at my 5-month scan. I think the reason I caught up with the importance of the baby's gender is because it's so important to the prevailing status quo. The disparity between people's preoccupation and my indifference to the perceived sex of the unborn child is making me feel very different from the mainly cisgendered world I inhabit. I suppose I've always known that people like to know the sex of a fetus. I think what I'm coming to realise now is just how little I want to know. It's making me mull over the effect of being assigned female at birth that it's had on my life. It's also making me consider that my gender ambiguity informs my understanding of gender and its fluidity to a greater extent than I had previously imagined. I'm starting to think that maybe it should have been obvious to me that cisgendered people care about the sex of an infant because they are happy to live with the sex they are assigned. But this doesn't fit right with me, because I feel cisgender people will mostly still have a gripe or two about the perceived ideas of their gender and therefore themselves. I'm finding the whole thing very confusing and othering. I'm wondering if I will continue to be able to fully think of my child as someone that could grow up to be anything after I have seen their genitals. Thank you.
Holly, you're on mute.
Thank you, Tink. Thanks so much for doing that. And it's quite very emotional, isn't it? We didn't mention at the beginning, but if anyone wants to ask me or Sabah a question, we've probably got 5 minutes or so at the end. I think maybe someone can tell us, so you can stick something in the chat or ask in a moment. But I'm now going to go over to Sabah, who's going to talk a bit about the project and their experience of the project and so on. Over to you, Sabah.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Tink, for reading that. And I'm just really glad that we still got Lucy's voice in here somehow. I also just want to say thank you, everyone, for joining us on a Saturday night. Solidarity with anyone who's finding lockdown 2.0.
Sorry, Sabah. We've got feedback.
Your that buzzing's happening.
Now it's this microphone. If I put it here,
you're too flash.
do you want me to start again?
Maybe, yeah. You can still hear it a bit, but
it's whenever you move too close to the microphone. So keep it far away from you. When you move too close, it gives us feedback.
Okay, how's it now?
Fine.
Okay. Let's start again. Yeah, I'm just really glad that Lucy's voice was a part of this project, and wanted to just say thanks to everyone for coming on a Saturday night and sending my solidarity with anyone who's finding lockdown 2.0 really terrible. And also shout out to like Kamala Harris and Biden for doing the damn thing. I'm just glad it's not Trump. Anyway, I don't want to bring politics too much into it because we have different views and that's okay. I'm trying to be as open-minded as I can be. But yeah, thanks. This is great. So hello, yeah. Why the hell did I do this project is the question that I'm asking myself tonight. Well, there was a couple of things. The first thing was the project itself, because I didn't know Holly, and Holly we didn't know each other, and I think Holly, you said that you knew everyone else in the project.
Yeah, so which is was something that was really important to me, and it still is to an extent. But I discovered through working with you that that I didn't necessarily have to know people intimately before bringing them into the studio. I felt we connected really quickly. And we'd said hello out and about once or twice, hadn't we? But yeah, we didn't know each other really.
Yeah, and I don't know about any other trans people here, but I'm quite not suspicious, but wary of working people outside of my community. So I already looked through your website, Holly. I checked your socials. I was like, who's this person? What do they want? What's their angle? Where they're coming from? Because well, we get fetishized, we get sensationalized, we get just put into a tick box. So like I needed to make sure that it's more than that. And you working with Krishna and Travis, especially in the past, really helped me to just feel like, okay, maybe it's worth giving Holly a shot. But actually, it was seeing the photo so far, and actually, especially the photo of Krishna that you saw there, the brown hairy person with like blue glitter and the roses stuck on their body, and like the syringes as well. And seeing that photo, like Krishna is a friend of mine, but seeing that photo was like, I don't know, I saw this brown masculine hairy body with scars, and it very similar to my own, and it looked beautiful, and I was like, I want to look like that. That's how I want to look. And I don't get topless. It doesn't, it's not something. I'm not one of those trans guys who's like, topless pics all the time because now I got chest surgery. Personal preferences, no judgment.
Not out.
But I was like, but that makes me feel like I want to do that, and that's the way I want my body to be seen, topless and naked on top. And yeah, I guess it just goes to show that representation really, really matters. I know I know you all know this already. Representation matters, but it does, and that just made me feel like, yeah, I could feel pretty. Yeah, the other thing about this project was that it wasn't really about being trans. Like, I don't know. I think we must have talked about gender at some point, but it doesn't feel like we were. Like, it wasn't like, so tell me about your experience coming out, or I don't know, like, it was just none of that. And I'm tired of that. Like, I don't know how long I've been trans for, but I've talked about it for too long. And it was just good to just be in a place where I can just camp the F up and just be really just focused on my appearance and on my aesthetic and what I look like, and just feel celebrated actually in that moment, and especially from somebody who's outside of my communities, and I feel like it's genuine interest. Like, you were so affirming and complimenting me in just like in our photo shoot, and it was just so nice. I was like, oh, this is dope. Like, I really enjoyed it. I don't think we trans people of color especially get spaces where we can just look good, and it'd be nothing. It doesn't have to be deeper than that. Like, I don't care if anyone here just wants to look at that photo and not read the captions or the comments or look into it. Like, if you're looking at me, that's enough, because we don't get to see just beautiful bodies like this and celebrate in this way. So and yeah, and I think that's where that gender euphoria comes in for me. It's like, that's it. Gender euphoria is not talking about gender at all. It's just being happy and feeling good. Yeah, I think I'm rambling quite a bit now, but it was just
that means the world to me, what you've said there. You've never actually said that out loud to me, I don't think. So I'm like gushing, like, but I think like my first the first thing I said to people, I just want you to be yourself, which is sometimes the hardest thing to do when someone gets a great big camera out as well. But it was like, yeah, I just want you to be you, however and so on. And I didn't expect to do much topless stuff and that, because like I said, I just did not want to be that awful voyeuristic, like, I had no expectation actually. I think that's maybe a thing. I just wanted to make projects with some cute, interesting people.
And there was something you said earlier about queer photography. Photography with queer people or trans people often look straight, and you wanted this to be queer, and that took me back to one of the first photo shoots I ever did, which was for a sexual health guide for trans men, like years ago. And they asked trans men and trans women to, this was back in the day when non-binary didn't exist, right? So they asked us to pose, but they asked me to pose in ways I just never ever would ever stand. And like, they were like, put your hands behind your head, like classic man, like, and I'm like, I've never done that before in my life. And like, then I had like a jacket over the shoulder, like a man, I was like flinging my jacket back, flinging my masculinity back. And at the time I just didn't but that was I don't know. I think there was, you know, there was straight, there was cis. They don't have that nuance of what it means to. They're trying to fit us into their framework, and it just didn't work. I see EJ just put the brochure is in the Museum of Transology. Yeah, it's definitely an artifact for sure. But yeah, and yeah, so there you really have like done something where you are taking these photos from in a queer lens. Like it is like it can't not be, and I don't think it. Yeah, it just would look so different if it was somewhere out there. In a different light. But the other thing I wanted to mention actually was, which is very important, was the longevity of this project. And like, you know, you're working with us over time. It wasn't just like a drop in, you know, okay, you've done this thing, you fit into frame number 20, that's it. On page 6, like,
no way, honey. I'm going to be chasing you for the rest of your life now.
there's something so beautiful about that as well, like how it captures, it's about the relationship, but it also captures like the fluidity of our bodies, like even with Lucy, like now, you know, their body's changing and you've captured that. Sorry, I'm just trying to make sure I'm not moving around too much because I know that the microphone's a bit teetering on the edge, but yeah, I think that was also really important to me as well. So it means a lot that you've come back and you want to do more photos as well. Yeah, it makes you feel like I don't have to be stuck in this one kind of box either. Like,
yeah, and the fact that yeah, and obviously when you guys say yes when I ask you again and so on, it's like really affirming for me, and I'm like, oh, good, they're happy with it and that. But yeah, I mean, I photograph what I love, I suppose, and I keep coming back to it. And I guess I never, like I said at the beginning, I never, like, you know, I'm from a fine art background, darling. I wanted to be a photographer. And it wasn't until meeting all these beautiful queer people that I wanted to suddenly start taking photos. I mean, if I'd have looked into the future, my very serious art school self, and seen what the hell I was doing now, well, maybe not with this project, but certainly all the cabaret stuff and that, I'd have been horrified. Anyway, I don't know. What's my point? I don't know. Carry on.
well, I don't know how much time we have left, but if I think there was a question or two in the chat.
We can keep going as long as you like. We're going to move. Hi, this is Meg from Shout. Hi, everyone. We're going to move into like a very chill social after this. Like maybe do for the trans and non-binary people to just kind of hang out. But we can keep going with this as long as you like. It's like there's not another like timed event after this. So if you want to ask questions, I mean, I don't know, Sabah and Holly, if you got to go, and if you do, that's fine. But yeah, if you have questions, if you want to pop them in the chat. EJ said, are there plans for the photos to be printed and put on display as an exhibition? Sorry, it's my chicken and chips calling.
Oh, we have gone over. Sorry. Can you repeat?
Do you want me to repeat the question?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a plan from a question from EJ. Are there plans for the photos to be printed and put on display as an exhibition?
Yes, I hope so. Oh, that was my hand. Yes, that's the plan. So yeah, the plan is in a couple of years, it's definitely going to become a photo book, which is something I know how to do. And I have big ambitions for it to be an exhibition. It's got to be in the right place, and it's got to be big, and it's got to be special. No more shows in pubs. Thank you very much, though, for having me. But yeah, I have big ambitions for this. I'm also going to do my first ever Arts Council funding application at some point to develop the project and that as well. So yeah, I really hope so. It's really hard to get exhibitions, and but we're going to try. Maybe we'll just end up back in the glory. That's okay. Yeah, but and the photo book is a definite, and Bishopsgate Archive as well, most probably. I was going to say something else. Nope, it's gone. So yeah.
Nice. EJ's giving you a thumbs up.
I can see you. Hello.
Question from Jason for Holly. Hi, Jason. Are there photographers that you were inspired by with this project, and were there any that you really didn't want to be like?
Good question. I knew this was, I wondered if I'd be asked. So I'm inspired by lots of photographers, and I look at photography all the time, and but I wouldn't say there's anyone in particular, certainly not for the project. Since starting the project, I've discovered more people sort of quite dry kind of documentation, specifically of trans people, and that's the kind of work I don't want it to look like. But I understand that work in terms of it wants to be taken seriously and given, you know, like a serious sort of high profile space, so I get it. But it, to me as an artist, it feels very dry. But there are certainly, for the glitter stuff, I mean, with the one of Krishna, completely ripped off a Pia and Jill's picture for that. It was actually revisiting Pink Narcissus that gave me the idea for that series. So that was quite specific. Mapplethorpe I look at a lot for sort of black and white body and so on. You know, I love all the old sort of queer photographers, Peter Hujar, people like that. So they're all in my head. And actually someone who I thought I didn't want the work to look like, again, it was quite a serious documentary style, I've now started to see in a different light. So I am, yeah, looking at some photographers differently. Anyway, yeah, is that okay?
Yeah, fab. There's a question from Ellie. They say, hi Holly, I'm a freelance theatre practitioner and teach an adult group called Queer Creatives. When I direct, I often look at snapshots within rehearsals and use photos to devise work. Have you ever thought about using your work and combining it with performance?
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that some people I work with, so for example, it was around this time last year, I worked with Alex Marlowe, who's a performer, and we did this really great shoot of them, sort of half in with their sort of drag face, but and a leotard or something, like crawling through the mud and so on and so on. It was all about them looking back to their sort of queer roots and so on. And I know that those photos were used in the production, in the development of their theatre piece afterwards, and that made me so happy. If my kind of sort of theatre work and production work and so on can then, you know, go into the creative process, I love that. That's how I want it to work. I'm working on Bullish as well, so I work with Leo and kind of mentored them to take photographs of the cast. So they were in charge of the camera, which was like it's quite hard to let go of the camera, but that was a great, yeah, that was a great process. And they made an exhibition of those photographs that toured with the show, which was really cool. So yes, basically, and I would love to do much more of that.
We have something from Annabelle, who says, less of a question, but I just want to say thank you, Holly, and everyone involved. I did a similar project on a smaller scale last year about gender euphoria within non-binary and gender non-conforming people. And I remember being told I had to be careful as there might not be much to photograph and write about, that maybe I should write about dysphoria, but you've definitely helped prove that we have so much to say as a community and as individuals. And it absolutely doesn't have to be yet another thing about how sad and dysphoric people think trans people are all the time.
Thank you.
I've got a question, Holly.
Oh.
Like, having done all this hanging out with trans and non-binary people, I'm just wondering what's your relationship with your own gender? Like, what's happening?
I wondered if a question like that might come up. I mean, obviously, I mean, they say that
are you being trans? That's my question.
Yeah, Holly, are you trans yet?
Are you trans yet?
all my horrible gay man friends always used to call me, I can't remember if it was pre-op or post-op back in the late 90s, which is obviously not something we anyway, sorry. Yes, so they say that you're you're reflected in your work and so on, and this has made me reflect on my identity more so. And I did mean to put my pronouns in there, which I do use she, her pronouns, and I theoretically and so on, I feel that they would be far more appropriate, but I don't feel I've earned them, which I know is stupid in a way, but then not in another way. And particularly the more I work with the people I'm working with, I'm like, no, I don't need that. Maybe there'll come a day when everyone's they and it'll be great. But I've also, like, woman has never fitted me, and I always thought it was like a growing up thing. I thought, I know woman sounds old, like, I thought that's why I was rejecting it. But I've actually, particularly over lockdown and getting the dog, I have embraced my middle age, and but I'm still not comfortable with woman. Queer woman, yes, and queer is queer woman is a chosen identity, I guess. So fag hag was the first identity I had that really felt like me, and I know most people hate that, and I'm thinking, well, I'm writing a piece which I might co-perform with someone one day, all about my identity, actually, which begins with fag hag and goes into exploring what a woman can be. I'd say one thing, actually, I'm rambling a bit, it's quite a hard question to answer, but I have a lot to say on it, but I'm probably not getting it out very well, I don't know. And some of the people in the project have talked about this, so Anna talks about this really eloquently, although they present quite masculine and so on, they use she, her pronouns and so on, and they're very interested in queering what a woman can be. I might not be articulating this properly, and expanding the definition of a woman. Kay has also talked about this as well. Does that answer it?
Yeah, I mean, whatever you wanted to share, I was just kind of curious. And also this thing, can we make a thing where everyone can stop going, oh God, I'm rambling? Because no one's been rambling, everyone's been answering questions. It's a thing that certain people in the world do and other people don't. So yeah, let's think about that.
Can I just add something really quick onto what Holly said? Holly, you said something like, I don't feel like I've earned them, or the pronouns or something. And I that makes me feel a bit sad, like there's some kind of, like, tick box or some kind of categories you got to get through to use certain pronouns or call yourself a certain way. And this isn't about you, but maybe just like also to everyone, like if you feel like that's who you are, then that's who you are, and that's enough. And what I really liked about this project as well is that everyone just uses different pronouns. And, that in itself shows us, like, that our genders and identities are just so much more than pronouns. They're more than that. And yeah, I just wanted to say that, like, and we got time. We can wait until you feel like you want to call yourself whatever. Don't worry about it. But yeah, there's nothing you
have to. I'm very inspired.
And that's really true, and I have conversations with friends who are go, can I talk to you, Meg? I'm like, yes. And so there is a process, and I certainly went through that process as well, of claiming they, them, and then claiming she, her. And I think as trans people, we have this thing around, or people who are thinking about gender in non-cis normative ways, let's not label things. There's a thing around, like, oh, am I allowed? Oh, I haven't suffered enough. I haven't, like, gone through a thing. It's not, like, as central as it seems to be to their identity. And like, we can do whatever you like.
Yeah, exactly. And I know, and like everyone I know speaks like this and so on, and I'm totally with that, but at the same time I'm like, I don't know. It's like, I mean, I was most at home once upon a time with gay men as well. I think I like to make myself as a bit, I always seem to put myself in that slight outsider position, but sort of outsider nudging in kind of thing. So yeah, that it's where I feel most comfortable is being on the outside. Maybe I don't know. I don't feel I am on the outside though, but you know, I appreciate that I am in a way. Yeah, but I certainly don't fit into cis straight. Anyway, all that no.
There was a slightly technical question from James, and they said some of your images in the project use really bold colour schemes, e.g. the backgrounds of the glitter photos. How do you go about choosing the colours of the portraits of particular people? Do they choose? Do you recommend colours or what?
I let the participants choose as far as I remember. Yeah, I think they completely chose, and Felix chose green, and I think green's maybe not the best light for photos. Gorgeous as they are, it's quite a difficult colour, I've realised through the print process. But they also had Felix also had pink as well, which was beautiful. Yeah, so yeah, I left it up to them, but it's coloured gels that I use to do that. And yeah, technically speaking, I'm always learning. Coloured gels were really like in a couple of years ago, I think, and I really avoided them. And then when they started to go out, I thought, I'll have a bit of that then.
We've got some of the participants talking about what they chose. Leo chose pink, Sabah chose gold, chose leaves. Sabah says leaves is my favourite colour. Sabah, did you have a question?
Oh yeah, I guess it was kind of tying to the question that Meg asked around yeah, your own identity, and I wondered if there was any particular photo or person that you could relate to, or that you related to.
For me, yeah. Sorry, sorry. Say that again for some reason. Ask me again. Sorry. Do you,
That's all right. I wanted to know if there was any particular photo or person in the project that you could relate to.
Oh, that's an unexpected question. Who do I relate to the most? I can see some of them smiling at me. Hello, Jen. I can see you're underneath me on my screen, and then
less about me,
as
maybe
well.
if it was...
I can see Melody as well, who's hopefully going to be in the project.
But maybe less about the person. Maybe that's a bit too much pressure. But maybe there's a particular experience that was brought up that you related to.
Yeah, there has to be, doesn't there? God, this is something I've really not thought about. Oh, might have to come back to that, but I want to answer it. It's a really good question. You in the paddling pool. I haven't seen yet. See the secret bubble photos. Oh.
That's all right. There is another question from Jason.
Okay.
You can see the answer.
I will come back to you on that another time, I promise.
Hold you to it.
I think we're going to take this as the final question. Jason says, what's next, Holly?
What's next?
What's your next project?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, I've got other projects that I've put on the back burner because I got so into this one. So this one I see as going on for a couple more years in terms of making a finished thing from it, and it's also I'm looking to diversify it further in many ways, and I'm inviting people into the project if they're interested, so it's going beyond the people I know. So my archive, I had 10 years of work archived, the performancey work and so on last year, and there's plans for a book for that, which was kind of something that maybe I could have done over lockdown a bit, but of course I didn't. And yeah, there's a lot of stuff to do with my archive. I want to make a series of little mini books of like lots of the individual performers. I've got so much stuff. In terms of a new project, there are certain people that I want to do something more personal with, people that I've worked with more generally, and that's I don't want to divulge those ideas right yet, but there are people that I'm talking to about doing one-on-one projects with.
I think we're going to close this part of the space here now. Thanks, Holly. Thanks, Sabah. Thanks, Tink. Thanks to all the participants who've attended. Thanks to everyone else.
Can I say a quick thank you before we close off?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
At the beginning, I might have been a bit rushed and I might have not said all the thank yous properly and so on, but just thanks so much to everyone here. I'm like really overwhelmed with how many people made it and so on, and just like a massive thanks to Sabah. Like, you made it so easy for me and I felt really natural with you, and you were there from the start with your thumbs up, which was great. Meg, you've been a great host. Tink, thank you so much for stepping in for Lucy, and I just wanted to say that Lucy said it was okay to tell you why they wasn't here tonight. I wasn't just like going, you know, so they were totally cool with that. So yeah, big hug to Lucy as well. And to, all the participants that are here, I love you all very much. Anyway, I could go on and I could get all very emotional now. So I'll say thank you and goodbye. Back over to Meg to close.
And back to Meg in the studio. So here's the plan, everyone.